The Khan of Gods!
Okay, so this is the Xiaomi Redmi Note 8. Not to be confused with the Redmi 8. That's a completely different phone that I'm going to be reviewing at a later date. But for context, before we dive into this video, I just want to point out that this phone literally costs $169 right now on Amazon, and I feel this incredible urge to make my own declaration of independence right now, so I'm gonna do it. This Xiaomi Redmi Note 8 is the best budget, best mid-range, best flagship killer phone that money can buy in 2019 and forevermore. Point blank simple.
Dang.
Now that that's out of the way, let's get into a very detailed review of this phone. But I think for every detailed review, we actually have to start with an unboxing. So you open up this compact white box that the Xiaomi Redmi Note 8 comes in, and you get this other small white box that basically contains some stuff that we're going to talk about in a moment. You also get the phone, and this unit has already been in use, so the front and back stickers have already been peeled off. In the initial box that you get, you're basically going to get this SIM ejector tool, you're going to get a plastic TPU case for the phone, you're also getting some paperwork, so basically warranty information and the manual. Now, of course, this clear TPU case that you get is very flexible. I mean, it looks okay, but it's not the most fancy thing in the world. It's nice of them to include it in a box for a phone that is this affordable. Anyways, the only other things that you get in a box are going to be the USB-C cable and a fast charge charging brick, essentially. Now that that's out of the way, let's jump into the review proper. And boy oh boy do I have a lot to say. Let's start with the design. Design wise, this phone has a glass in the front, glass in the back design, basically Gorilla Glass 5 in the front and Gorilla Glass 5 in the back. So relatively durable, but glass is glass and glass will break. One thing that I would have liked to see would have been some sort of wireless charging on a phone that's all glass like this. But of course, I cannot be mad at a phone that's $170 for not having wireless charging. And speaking about the charging, this phone actually has Quick Charge 3.0, which is really fast, blazing fast, and it's compounded by the fact that this phone has a 4000 mAh battery. Now, 4000 mAh may not sound insane to you, but it actually is. The battery life on this phone is absolutely bonkers. Considering I am not like a super heavy user of my phone, like I'm not constantly texting and Snapchatting and stuff like that, I am easily getting 2 days of use out of this phone. The battery life it rocks. Now, moving away from the internals of this phone for a little bit, and speaking about something that I'm sure has caught your attention by now, the cameras on the back of this phone. Now, it's a quad camera setup, which basically means 4 cameras, but these cameras are actually really something. One main camera that's 48 megapixel f1.8, which is relatively wide at 26mm, and it shoots really nice photos, really sharp, relatively edgy and very usable photos. And the next one is going to be the 8 megapixel ultra wide sensor at 13mm f2.2, and it shoots fantastic wide photography. Now, the last 2 cameras are a little bit of a mixed bag for me, and I'm going to explain why in a moment. The first one is the 2 megapixel dedicated macro sensor, which I never actually had use for, and another 2 megapixel depth sensor, which I suppose is supposed to help you with your portrait mode and stuff like that. Now, a deeper dive into the kind of photos that this phone takes, low-light photography is absolutely insane. Like, my office is pretty much always dark with some LEDs firing off my tables and the wall, and the photos out of this looked absolutely pristine in almost absolute darkness. For photos that you take outside as well, the photos are actually pretty nice. The 48 megapixel mode is really cool too. The photos are super sharp and very vibrant. The portrait mode though is a little bit of a mixed bag for me. I mean, I'm going to be completely honest, maybe only 2 out of every 10 photos I took in portrait mode were actually usable, because it was constantly blurring out things that it didn't have any business blurring out, and that just didn't look very good. Speaking a little bit about the video quality of the cameras on the back of this phone, you're getting 4K video at up to 30 frames per second and 1080p video at up to 120 frames per second slow motion, which is absolutely insane. And it does have something called gyro electronic image stabilization, which I guess is supposed to stabilize your video footage, but I don't know, I didn't really notice much of any electronic image stabilization, if I'm being totally honest with you. That said though, the videos are super IRS, super sharp, and I absolutely loved them. The selfie camera on this phone is actually really nice. A 13 megapixel f2 shooter that basically has panorama mode, and you can also somehow shoot video at 1080p up to 30 frames per second. And yes, both the main shooters and the selfie camera have HDR, so great. Speaking a little bit more about the performance of the unit that I have, this one has 4GB of RAM and 64GB of internal storage, which is expandable up to 256GB. So yeah, you get 2 SIM card slots and you get a slot to actually expand with an SD card. And yes, I do have to mention there is a 6GB variant of this phone, but I don't really see a need for that one because at 4GB the phone works fantastic. I am not a gamer, I almost never game on my phone, so yes, 4GB is completely enough. The fingerprint sensor on the back is relatively okay. It's not the fastest one I've used, but it's definitely not the slowest either. It's just decent. I think another thing that really aids the performance is the fact that this phone is running on the Snapdragon 665 chipset, which is really cool. I mean, of course, it's not top of the line, but it's a relatively decent performer. Now, jumping away from the performance and talking about the display of the phone itself, this is an IPS LCD display and it's 6.3 inches with a resolution of 1080p by 2340 pixels, and you are getting around the 409 ppi pixel density, which is really good for a phone at this price point. Now, speaking a little bit about a touchy subject, the operating system. Running on Android 9 Pie, this is stock out of the box MIUI 10, which honestly I thought I was going to hate, but I actually did not dislike it at all. I actually quite enjoyed it. And a few days after having this phone, Xiaomi actually pushed an update for MIUI 11 and they actually added some really useful features to the phone, which I will be going over in a completely separate video. Now, if you haven't yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you do not miss the barrage of Xiaomi videos that I'm going to be dropping over the next few days. Moving on, and speaking about MIUI, the first thing that I thought I was going to hate was the absence of some sort of app drawer or app dock, and honestly, I actually got used to it. In fact, I did not dislike it at all. Also, I know that a lot of people complain about ads in their phones when they're using MIUI, and I actually never experienced this. But then again, I only really used this phone for a few days, so I don't really know. But if you are experiencing the hard situation, I think there are some YouTube tutorials that you can use to learn how to completely disable advertising inside of your phone. Now, one of the things that a lot of people don't seem to speak about or notice is the tools that Xiaomi adds into MIUI. I mean, the office where I'm currently recording the audio for this video has 2 extreme temperatures. It's either extremely hot or extremely frozen. And the reason for that is because I completely lost the remote control for my air conditioning. But with my Xiaomi phone, I can basically just use the IR blaster and I set up my air conditioning, and now I can control my air conditioning, not just to turn it on and off, and I can actually control the temperature, the fan speed, the intensity, and all of that. Then I took it a step further and I went to control the TV in the living room, and I basically just started messing with all the other electronics around the house that are actually compatible and can be controlled with this Xiaomi remote control application. Another really big deal with the tools is the screen recorder application. Native Android 10 does not have any screen recorder. I mean, iPhones do, why can't Android have a screen recorder? Xiaomi actually has their own screen recorder pre-installed in the phone, and this is actually some really useful hops. I don't know why other companies don't think of this. And also in MIUI 11, they actually let you hide that ugly notch in the front, which is actually really important. They also improved the application design and stuff like that, but we're gonna talk about that a little more in another completely separate video. You see, if I continue to talk about all the features and all the tools and every single thing this phone can do, this is going to be a 20-minute video, but I don't like really long videos. So let me just give you my verdict. As far as value for money goes, this, in my opinion, is the best phone you can buy for under $200. It's just absolutely insane that this phone is $170. How did they even get to that price point? But I'm not here to judge profit margins. I just want to tell you that if you're trying to buy a phone right now and you're on a really tight budget, maybe you're broke or you're just poor, and you have less than $200 to spend, there's no need to look at any other phones. This is the beginning and the end. This is your bread and butter. This is the one that you should buy. Thank you so much for watching. Do not forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so that you get notified when I publish my review of the Xiaomi Redmi 8, which again is a completely different phone. And I guess I will see you on another video that was shot by Kagan. Huh? Waiting to happen.